Pretty much every video on this platform covering cosmic horror media opens with the creator or narrator giving their own definition of cosmic horror. But for this video, we are going to be doing the exact same thing, because I could not think of a good way to subvert that trend. And you know, cosmic horror is a vague enough subgenre that you do kind of need to lay a foundation for what you are going to be yapping about. It does seem like everybody's idea of it is a little bit different. Some see it as a subgenre defined by its large and crushing existentialist themes. Others by its literally large and crushing godlike monsters, some by its sci-fi elements, and then for me, by a little bit of all of the above. I think for something to be categorized as cosmic horror, it does need to feature a striking element of the unknown. The terror should come from being faced with something unknowable that maybe reveals just how little we know about either our own state of being or the nature of the universe. And it should be existential enough to make the viewer or reader what have you feel small. And then also have a dash of eldritch beings and science fiction mixed in too. The most important aspect for me, though, of cosmic horror is that element of the unknown. In my opinion, Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien is cosmic horror because the discovery of the extraterrestrial ship and the horrors that it contains are so dramatically frightening and unknowable, not to mention dangerous, but Prometheus, the prequel film, I would not define as cosmic horror at all, because it exists to answer most of the questions posed in Alien. It takes away that mystique, which for me is essential for something to be cosmic horror. In this video, I and my buddy Zutto, who you may know from his excellent videos on True Detective and Pearl, amongst other things, will be covering 5 terrifying cosmic horrors. We are going to be yapping about a few films, a game, and a manga, but before we can do any of that, I do need to give a quick spoiler warning. For all of the different media that we will be spoiling in this video, I have timestamped when we will be yapping about what. Plus, there is an index down below in the description, which does also include the music used, but still some discussion may spill over, so here is a general spoiler warning. For the audio-only crowd, we will be spoiling in order the Children of Clay, Hellstar Remina, Memories, The Thing, and Fire in the Sky. Do be sure to let us know down below your favorite pieces of cosmic horror media, and if you enjoy this video or anything else I've been doing recently, feel encouraged to like and subscribe or to support me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can have your name shouted out in the credits of every future video. Bolash Ronyai's 2024 point-and-click archaeological horror game, The Children of Clay, is aesthetically one of the most interesting and eerie horror games I've played in my entire life. We will get to the cosmic horror elements soon enough, but first I have to point out just how cool this game looks, and how creepy the setup is. In the game, you play as an archaeologist in a dark and vacant museum who is studying this strange and very spooky looking artifact, and by examining it, you begin to unravel its disconcerting history and origins, which eventually lead to things going bump in the night. Behind your desk and beyond the artifact's silhouette is a fairly intimidating swallowing blackness, a true darkness. And I couldn't help but worry that something was there for the entire duration of my playthrough. I kept thinking of something Jacob Geller said in his recent video essay, Fear of Dark.
Here's how I would describe the fear of dark once you suck all the poeticism out of it. Either there is nothing there, or there is something there.
The Children of Clay uses darkness, yes, extremely effectively, but the true star of the show is the artifact. Which, and if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll know I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, is entirely practical. Ronyai actually sculpted this thing, which he nicknames the Child, in the making of DLC. By the way, this game was made for a game jam in just 3 days. That is absolutely bonkers. Yes, it is very short. While it took me almost 18 full minutes to complete the game in my playthrough because I couldn't figure out how to light the match, my wife, whose gameplay you have been seeing on the screen, finished it in under 15 minutes. My biggest criticism with the game is its lack of an ending, but again, it was made on a time crunch and is also completely free on Steam, so I do mostly forgive that. And I would love to see this idea expanded into a longer or full title. There is a moment where you come across a full bookshelf of monuments and idols, all of which are wondrous and ghostly in their own specific ways, and it would be so cool to play a game where you get to investigate multiple of these. The game takes a lot of inspiration from Hungarian folklore, which feeds really nicely into the cosmic horror elements at play. The artifact starts to bleed, I don't know, but a disgusting abomination slithers out of it before we are teleported to some kind of sealed-off chamber. The idea of an archaeologist discovering that these fragments of the past which he has been studying do actually hold otherworldly powers is really cool, and implemented here to great effect. You can really feel the archaeologist's psyche shatter at the end of the game as he realizes that he has no footing in this world and is at the mercy of unknowable powers. I really recommend this game. Again, it's a quick one and is also completely free, but if you do want to sort of tip Ronyai, you can buy the DLC, which I did, and even though he gave me permission to show footage from said DLC in this video, I am not going to because I really think y'all should consider checking it out for yourselves. By the way, I also just love the idea of archaeological horror in general, mainly because I just really like archaeology. My late grandfather was an archaeologist, and I have very fond memories of hunting for arrowheads. I find archaeology to be a very noble vocation, and if you're wondering if I am the kind of person who not only knows several quotes about archaeology, but has favorites, then you would be correct, and I'm going to share those right now. Archaeology is the peeping Tom of the sciences. It is the sandbox of men who care not where they are going, they merely want to know where everyone else has been. James Bishop. Archaeology is not a science, it's a vendetta. Mortimer Wheeler. Archaeology is about facts. Forget any ideas you've got about lost cities, exotic travel, and digging up the world. We do not follow maps to buried treasure, and X never ever marks the spot. Indiana Jones.
When I think of cosmic horror, I of course think of the creatures. Cthulhu, the Deep Ones, the one I can never pronounce.
Nyarlathotep.
I also think of stories that feature a growing sense of madness stemming from threats beyond our understanding. What happens when humans find out they're not alone in the universe? A lot of stories have done the whole humanity as the real monster trope to varying degrees, but I've yet to find a better depiction of blind, panic frenzy than the crazed mobs of Hellstar Remina. Set in a futuristic society, Hellstar Remina is a story that centers around the appearance of a world-eating creature and the existential horror it creates, all while acting as a criticism of humanity's base natures. We follow Remina Uguro, the daughter of a prize-winning scientist who discovers a wormhole to another dimension. The wormhole brings with it a planet that flies faster than light speed. The scientist names it Remina, after his daughter, and their popularity skyrockets. Shortly after, the planet suddenly appears in the sky, and word spreads that planet Remina is on a collision course with Earth. Although the story is set in a utopian society with hovercars and space travel, it's surprising how quickly things devolve into chaos. All it takes is one person blaming everything on the Uguros to set the wheels firmly in motion. Within the first chapter, huge swarms of people already want Remina and her entourage dead. That's not to say the mobs are a bigger threat than the monster though. Planet Remina is an extinction level event 100 times worse than the faraway star it disguised itself as. And it's later revealed to be a sentient planet that exists to consume everything in its path, complete with bloodshot, monster size, and a tendril-like tongue. The surface of the planet is a complete hellscape as well, uninhabitable to humans, and home to a series of ghoulish death traps. Pretty much all the scenes taking place in the planet's surface are easily the most disturbing parts of this story. Back on Earth, bizarre hooded men arrive to incite even more chaos. Their solution to stopping the oncoming planet is to destroy what they believe to be its avatar, Remina Uguro. I should mention here that Hellstar Remina was created by famed manga author Junji Ito, who delivers on some incredible art. Scores of wailing, terrified faces litter the backgrounds of Hellstar Remina, and these panic-stricken crowds almost take over the panels as a creature inches closer. Planet Remina's design is also creepy in a way that's unique to Ito's style. You can tell it's completely indifferent to humanity, even choosing to roll the earth around with its tongue as if playing with its food. While his art is amazing as always, Ito isn't very well regarded for his characters. Most of these characters are really just vehicles for Ito to get us to more disturbing imagery, and here, he's particularly unkind to the main heroine for some reason. Ito chooses to make Remina an idol, probably as a commentary on fandom in general, but there's not much room for him to explore it. In fact, Remina doesn't have much to do in the story either, since she's already on the run in the first chapter. So there are some admittedly flat characters featured here, but there's something about the sheer cosmic dread of its premise and the world that draws me in, at least in its first half. I feel almost all Junji Ito's stories take a left turn into absurdity at some point, and Hellstar Remina is no exception. In this case, it's for the best though. Right when the story becomes excessively dark and nihilistic, the tone shifts a fair bit. Hellstar Remina does get wacky, but I kinda love that about it. In the second half, we encounter a local homeless man, who delivers on some of Remina's best moments. At one point, the planet is slowly being devoured, which leads to an almost complete loss of gravity. During this, a hooded man takes Remina. The homeless man flies after him and starts a mid-air fight. He saves her while still floating in midair and rides to win with Remina in tow. What follows is a mad dash to the last remaining safe house on Earth as the world's population chases after them, as in, all the countries of the world unite to chase down 2 people. The stakes become stupidly high, but somehow it works. The final act has its share of B-movie action set pieces, but I'm glad Hellstar Remina gets away from taking itself too seriously. It just becomes an enjoyable sci-fi horror story. Don't worry, there's still plenty of horrifying alien imagery and body horror spread out here as well though. I wholeheartedly recommend Hellstar Remina for giving us a high-concept, high-stakes cosmic horror tale that makes good use of its premise, all while tackling the nature of frenzy and fandom. For now, I'm just gonna leave it there, and let whoever hasn't read Hellstar Remina enjoy the rest of the story. Believe me, it's certainly a unique experience.
Speaking of unique experiences, you have never seen an anthology like the 1995 Japanese anime film Memories. Comprised of 3 shorts entitled Magnetic Rose, Stink Bomb, and Cannon Fodder, which play in that order. Memories is, for starters, an incredible showcase of the power of hand-drawn 2D animation. All 3 shorts are absolutely gorgeous. The animation teams spared no expense. And whilst Stink Bomb and Cannon Fodder have their merits, I know Zutto really likes Stink Bomb.
Freeze him out like he's Frosty the goddamn snowman! Charlie Happy this, asshole!
I am going to focus on the first short, which is perhaps the most beautiful cosmic horror story ever told. Directed by Koji Morimoto and written by legendary filmmaker Satoshi Kon, who made Perfect Blue, Paprika, and Tokyo Godfathers, Magnetic Rose is a ghost story. But in space. It's actually a part of one of my favorite subgenres of sci-fi horror. Stories where an unwitting crew stumble upon a mysterious wreck or distress beacon and come face to face with forces beyond their capabilities or comprehension. In Magnetic Rose, a salvage crew receives a strange distress signal emanating from a ship graveyard. After investigating, they discover that its source is a massive, derelict spaceship, which is also emitting a dangerous magnetic field. The crew's pair of engineers, an older family man named Hines and a younger womanizer named Miguel, board the ship, which, by the way, is a moment that just takes my breath away.
Time to ring the doorbell, boys.
Legendary composer Yoko Kanno of Cowboy Bebop fame brought her A-game to this short film. Although, to be clear, she didn't write Madame Butterfly, which is what you're hearing in the background right now. that was Puccini, but her version is still very good. And speaking of moments that absolutely take my breath away, Hines and Miguel discover that the ship's interior designer was a little bit unorthodox. Answering a sketchy mayday call in an abandoned corner of the vast emptiness of space and then turning up to discover a spacecraft made out of rotting wreckage which contains an immaculately designed Victorian mansion Now that, right there, that is cosmic horror. Forget the definitions and all that hoopla from earlier, this is it, right here. What on earth is going on? Hines and Miguel discover that the ship belongs to a famed but now long forgotten opera diva named Eva Friedel, who appears to them in the form of a supercomputer-powered hologram. Much of what Hines and Miguel are faced with are holograms painting over the truth, gilding the actual nature of what they are seeing. Also, holograms acting as ghosts, awesome idea. As a haunted house, this spaceship excels. It feels very liminal. Everything is just so eerie and uncanny. The transition from the lo-fi kind of rundown space aesthetic to this regal interior is really cool. And just absolutely mesmerizing.
Get a load of this.
Huh? Oh, what a classy babe.
Magnetic Rose was envisioned by the filmmakers as the anthology's centerpiece, and boy did it deliver. The finale is terrifying and intense, where Miguel is seduced into staying on board through visions of what his future could hold, and Hines tempted by what his past could have been. While Miguel decides to live a falsehood, Hines rejects the fabrications presented before him, and chooses to make peace with his past, even if it means death. I cannot help but wonder if put in the same position, which outcome would I select? What would you?
In the endless sea of sci-fi and horror film creatures, my absolute favorite has to be the titular monster of John Carpenter's The Thing. It's this all-consuming, almost all-knowing force that's constantly assimilating, growing stronger and more cunning as it learns how to hunt you. It can take the form of anything, from your dog, your coworker, your frenemy. There may be many creatures like it, but this one is my favorite. There's a real fear of the unknown present in The Thing that truly makes the film. The Arctic setting is a perfect choice, as the crew of Outpost 31 are completely alone in this remote base. The characters start off a little stir-crazy, and we get the sense that tensions are high before the film even begins. The paranoia that emerges from this kind of scenario comes on pretty quick, and there's this constant suspicion that drives the film. The world-ending ramifications of The Thing escaping their remote base feels very Lovecraftian as well. There's even a point where Blair, the crew's biologist, ends up going mad after reading these projections, and starts tearing the base to pieces, in an effort to keep the Thing from breaking out. Speaking of the characters, all the performances are pretty great here, most notably from the legendary Keith David and Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's MacReady, which for me beats out Snake Plissken as his best character, is effortlessly cool, especially with the sombrero that, for some reason, Kurt Russell famously hated. MacReady and Doc calling in what we later realized to be the remnants of this Norwegian crew is such a good first contact scene. It's a disgusting display of body horror, featuring this twisted, conjoined face, and the whole thing emits steam as it just lays there. The practical effects are still talked about to this day, and for good reason. They hold up incredibly well. Later on, the defibrillator scene showcases just how good the effects truly are. We see this head rolling off, then growing legs and escaping. How did they do that? And in the 80s? During the autopsy scenes, the film really revels in the practical effects. Most visual effects are reserved for quick cuts, but the filmmakers here are comfortable having the effects in close-ups and long takes. Back to the monster, the Thing is incredibly crafty. There's a scene near the end where it's revealed that Blair, who was quarantined after his outburst, has actually been infected all along, and has been building a small ship to escape in. It's made out of scrap he found around the base, including a generator. It's incredibly creepy that the Thing is just working on an exit plan in the background, and it shows just how outmatched MacReady and the crew really are. Even we, the audience, can't see the full scope of what they're dealing with. Over the years, people have dug deep to craft things like infection timelines, since there are tons of clues that hint towards who's been infected and for how long. It's fun to see people decipher stuff like this, and personally, I live for this level of over-analysis. Of course, there's tons of theories surrounding the ending, with pretty good evidence on both sides, including a theory that MacReady's been infected this whole time. There's apparently a canon continuation in the game, but in the world of the film, it's unanswered. I really don't mind ambiguous endings though, and if anything, the last moments really speak to the theme of suspicion and doubt, which make the film what it is. By the way, I haven't really engaged with the Thing's extended universe, which includes the 2011 prequel, the game, and the comic series, but if anyone has, let me know about it in the comments. I'd like to know if it's worth getting into, honestly. The Thing has consistently been my go-to monster movie ever since I can remember. It's one of those films I consider pretty much perfect right down to the poster. Well, it does lose some points for the dog scene, and not gonna lie, I've always turned away a little bit during that part. Besides that though, I'd say it's without a doubt my favorite cosmic horror film. I could honestly gush about this movie forever. I didn't say enough about the classic John Carpenter score, for instance, but it looks like it's about that time. This has been Zutto of Zutto Show. Thanks to Get a Pancake for letting me share a few of my favorite cosmic horrors. Take care, I'll see you in the next one.
And now that Zutto has so elegantly and eloquently covered the all-time horror masterpiece that is John Carpenter's The Thing, I'm going to talk about the prequel. Zutto actually hasn't seen this movie, so I thought it'd be kind of funny just to talk about it for a minute because, I don't know, I'm a jerk, I guess. Matai Heiningen Jr.'s 2011 precursor to The Thing, also for some reason entitled The Thing, is, yeah, it's not great. Which is funny because I honestly think this movie should have been super easy to make, straight up. It's not often that a film should write itself like this, but the original literally laid out everything that happens. All this film needed to do was display some cool creature effects and hit those beats, but instead, and extremely tragically, studio interference absolutely skewered this movie. Heiningen Jr. had such a bad experience dealing with the execs in charge that he borderline quit filmmaking. They actually shot the film using practical creature effects, but the studio stepped in after filming was complete and CGI'd over all of that. Because of, I don't know, hubris, I suppose. And to be clear, this film wouldn't have been very good anyway. The characters all lack the charm of the original cast, and the tension between them also just isn't there in the same way. But it is still a bit of a calamity that this film turned out the way that it did. Actually, narcissistic, powerful idiots in suits ruining what should be a fun prequel movie. Now, maybe that right there is the real cosmic horror. Nah, the real cosmic horror is the abduction scene from the 1993 film Fire in the Sky. Did anyone else see this on cable as a kid? This was just like on TV somehow, because I very vividly remember witnessing this when I was little, and holy cow! Fire in the Sky is so funny because it is an hour and 40 minutes of cheesy melodrama, and then 10 minutes of the most harrowing shit you've seen in your entire life. I'm not gonna lie, when I decided to cover this film, I kinda wanted to pop in here and say a bunch of stuff about the rest of the movie, because nobody ever gives it the time of day, but yeah, who cares? The rest isn't bad, it's mostly fine, very well acted for sure, but good lord. The alien abduction scene is one of the most deranged pieces of filmmaking I have ever seen. If you haven't seen this movie, Fire in the Sky is the story of a group of friends who encounter a UFO, which abducts their friend Travis. The rest of the town obviously thinks that they are all making up the story to cover up his murder, but then Travis returns. We then, at about the hour and 20-minute mark or so, get the flashback to what really happened to him. And it is distressing to say the least. It's your classic UFO abduction and probing. They even beam him up. You've got the archetypal aliens in the flying saucer, but all of this is just cranked up past 11. This is the most traumatizing version of an alien abduction imaginable. Everything is disgusting. Poor Travis wakes up in a bed of goo before accidentally floating away and into someone's dissolving stomach. The set design on display during this sequence is incredible. I love how empty and inhospitable everything is, and the zero gravity effects look really good too. Very good wire work. In fact, all of the special effects here are excellent. Travis is chased by the aliens through a series of tunnels before he is dragged away into some sort of operating room. The aliens were brought to life mostly through puppetry. Fun fact, they got the Muppets puppeteers to work the aliens. Director Robert Lieberman aimed to depict them not as malevolent, but as ambivalent, uncaring, and this approach really worked. The fact that they are expressionless while they torture a shrieking Travis is very disturbing, as is the slime they scoop into his mouth, and then of course the horrible, tight, latex-like wrap they drop on him. Lieberman has said that this whole sequence actually came to him in a dream, and brother, that's not a dream, that's a nightmare. And he actually woke his then partner up and described the whole thing to her to remember for him. So we actually kind of have her to thank for all of the new nightmares caused by this very discomforting and frightening scene. A lot of the cosmic horror here comes from, well, aside from the obvious, the fact that we don't really know or understand what they are doing to Travis, but we can tell that they are doing something. This movie was actually quote-unquote based off of the true story of Travis Walton, whose account of what happened is very different. He claims to have fought the aliens off before being escorted off the ship by a handsome gentleman in a suit. And I love that the filmmakers heard that story and were like, we've got some different ideas. We're gonna workshop that a little bit. Recently in 2022, Jordan Peele reinvented the alien abduction story in his film Nope, but 31 years ago, Robert Lieberman, with the help of a very talented film crew, perfected that original formula and created a timeless and truly terrifying cosmic horror. I want to thank y'all so much for watching and for the continued support on this channel. It truly, really means the world. I am constantly in awe of how kind y'all all are, and I definitely also want to thank Zutto for being a part of this video. Go check out his channel. There is some really wonderful stuff on there. Plus, he has just uploaded a video on another great piece of cosmic horror, Under the Skin. Great movie, and I did already get to see the video, and it is also excellent. That and his channel are linked down below in the description. Lastly, I want to thank all of my patrons for making this video possible. Katie La Bombard, Ethan, Zutto Show J is Ait, Braden Surfos, Nina Verkowski, Curbing, Sean C, Joy Barnett, Addison S, Martha Barnett, Drew K, Muffin, Totally Awesome, and Lance B.